Today, we're going to talk about something very, very important. We're going to talk about the future if you are in India. We're going to talk about the future if you are in countries where privacy law and AI laws are coming. But we're going to talk about today, right? If you already are in EU, maybe, right? Because the privacy laws and the AI laws are becoming super stringent there, and data protection authorities have a lot of guidance for all of us to get going, right? Perfect, guys. So today we have with us Mona Roy. Mona Roy leads privacy at Ramboll. She's ex Big Four, and my name is Akarsh Singh. I am the privacy expert. Okay, I won't call myself expert anymore, but maybe I am in IAPP Asia advisory boards. I'm CIPPE, CIPM, CIPD, FIP. Also the founder here at Tsaaro Tsaaro Academy, and I'm loving the session today, talking to you. I feel a privilege to speak and to you to listen to me. I feel a privilege today because it's fifth anniversary of GDPR, and this is something that I keep telling all my people. Right? We also became 150 people strong at Tsaro. 150 is a huge number, by the way, for a 2-year-old startup, right? And we became 150 today, so we are super happy about that as well. And just wanted to share with all of you our success and where we are going ahead. So a bit about Tsaro. People who don't know Tsaro, we are a leading privacy and security service provider. We take care of consulting services and also academy services. So ISO 27701, 27001, privacy consulting, GDPR assessment, GDPR gap assessment, whatever it is about privacy, we do all of them. Some things in ISO 27001 and IST CSF frameworks. And also we take care of our academy, right? So academy, we teach privacy, IPPs, whatever certifications. I can see a lot of students here from academy also, so feeling proud of always, right? Okay, the disclaimer for the session is, and before we go to the disclaimer, Mona would like to introduce herself.
Thank you, Akash, for having me here today. Hello, everyone. I welcome you all to the webinar today. And yes, as Akash mentioned, it's a special day that GDPR marks its 5th anniversary today. So my name is Mona Roy. I work with Ramboll as data privacy lead for India, Asia Pacific, and Middle East. I have previously worked with PwC and Deloitte entirely in the domain of data privacy, information security. So I'm privileged to be here, and it'll be good that today we'll explore how GDPR works along with artificial intelligence, and let's see what's there in store. So thank you everyone for joining the session today.
Yeah, perfect. Welcome to the session, Mona. Disclaimer for the session is our speakers do not represent their organizations. Their views are personal. The discussion that is going to happen is only for reference and educational purposes. Though I do represent my company, but just come on, kidding. So coming to the point, introduction, right? So Mona, right? Coming to the point. So what is GDPR? I won't ask you what is GDPR, but I'll probably ask you how GDPR impacts AI. Yeah. So Mona, what's your take?
I think because artificial intelligence, what it's doing, it's working upon a lot of data which the company's organization collect, and that data is being utilized to train the machines or set pre-programmed languages and give instructions to them. So when data is involved, which includes personal data and sensitive data both, that's where GDPR has to come into picture. And currently it has become a very mandate requirement for almost all the organizations in all the countries to comply themselves with GDPR.
So GDPR is the mother of all privacy laws, right? Though mother or father of privacy would maybe Max Schrems, or some people call some other people, but I think definitely Max Schrems, and that's how the Meta case is also been running, right? I think that's why I keep calling Max Schrems, the person who started this for all of us. But AI, right? AI, coming back to the point. So what is happening is, see, artificial intelligence, end of day, what it is doing, right? Or we think about a bit more in depth, like a car which runs automatically, like Tesla, right? So the data that is getting, it has processed for so long, they have trained their artificial intelligence models, right? So now let's think about it. There's a Tesla car that is ongoing. Now, when Tesla is in EU, it is getting the data of the EU citizen, right, or resident. So if the data is of EU resident, that is getting processed at that point in time. So any processing, as and when it happens, comes under the scope of GDPR, right? And when it comes under the scope of GDPR applies, the regulation applies. Then there are certain conditions that you have to go through. You have to read about the law, look at the framework that you implement. So you have to do a few things, right? So that is why AI makes things more interesting, because the moment AI is used, it becomes automated data processing, first of all. Second thing that is happening is profiling. And the third thing that is happening is it is processing data at higher risk. Because if you have done a PIA till date, a privacy impact assessment, you would have realized the first part of PIA is that we look at how do we gauge the risk, right? And all this automation leads to higher set of risks, right? But coming back to the point, right? So Mona, right, what is different types of AI, right? What are these different types of AI? And everybody talks about generative AI today, right? So would you like to throw some light on what types of AI are there?
Yeah. So Akash, I think the term artificial intelligence, it potentially covers a wide spectrum of technology, but normally it refers to systems who work with pre-programmed instructions. We have it utilizes concepts with limited theory of mind, and understanding the human actions. So translating speech into text. So all of those technologies are coming into place. One recent application of AI, which we all are aware, was ChatGPT. It came into picture. It's utilizing all the data. So today it's kind of a nightmare for all the data privacy professionals, because it utilizes anything and everything which you would have posted online sometime in your lifetime. So whatever is there online, it's being used. And while you were discussing on what GDPR concepts would be used for AI to function in a proper manner, it also includes consent. And ChatGPT has been utilizing a lot of data without consent. So that's one of the application of artificial intelligence that we have come across. Data privacy does not restrict you from collecting or sharing personal information or sensitive information, but if the exchange and the processing is happening under the guidelines and the frameworks designed by the data privacy laws, not just GDPR, but now almost most of the countries are developing their own data privacy laws. So if the processing is happening under that framework, then it's okay. So even if artificial intelligence, the companies who are adapting these technologies, if they are doing it with following the proper principles, then it's okay.
So I think we just touched on the topic of Chat GPT, right? So there was this reasoning that came through the Italian DPA, right? That they kind of paused the processing of Chat GPT, right?
Followed by Germany as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you like to talk about it? I think that's a great point that you just pointed out. I think for all our
Yeah.
listeners, I think that can be a great
Yeah.
point.
Similarly, the way we have GDPR for all the European Union. So GDPR is basically the first extensive guideline on data privacy, or the law which was designed. Now it covers the basic 6 to 7 data privacy principles, which includes purpose limitations. So whenever we are collecting any information, there must be a proper purpose attached to it, backed by a legitimate, documentation, be in a form of contracts, agreements, or taking consents. So there are principles like ensuring why you are collecting the data, minimization, or talking of sustainability within data privacy. So these principles were not fulfilled when ChatGPT came into action. It was utilizing all the data without taking any consent, and majority of the data included sensitive information like health related details as well. So considering this usage, and also the another factor which impacted, because of which it started getting banned in Italy and Germany as well, was the accuracy. Since they are just adapting data from anywhere and everywhere, there is no accuracy check, which GDPR does not directly talks about profiling or artificial intelligence, but it talks of profiling and automated decisions which you take. So because of these non-compliances, they reached into this condition that they'll have to stop the usage of ChatGPT within their regions, and
Okay,
it's
that's
been
amazing. Yeah.
considered in
That's
other
amazing
countries.
information,
Yeah.
Mona. I think thanks for explaining that. I think I also learned a lot from this. Right, impact of GDPR. Right, in 5 years, somebody posted an article, and the article said what was the impact of GDPR. So, Mona, what do you think? I think you and we both have been in this industry for so long, right? I think I would like to kind of throw the ball in your court and then take it back, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think? What is the impact, right, that you see in last 5 years
I
of
think
GDPR?
when GDPR came into picture in 2018, it was very overwhelming for everyone, and it came as a quite of a burden to the organizations, because the guidelines were very much strict, and to comply with that was a huge problem for everyone, because people were processing data, but there was no standard structure of processing those data. So it did take a while, firstly, to basically go through the legislation and interpret it and understand it in the right manner. I think that was a bigger challenge for most of the organizations. There were not many privacy professionals who were an expert of that. Plus, there are categories within GDPR which are very tricky to understand for many people even today. For example, cross-border transfers. Not everyone is very clear on how does the cross-border transfer happen, and
This
basis on what agreements and what documentation.
Yeah.
So it has
I
a
feel
huge
like the
impact.
trick is
Yeah.
for especially for cross-border trade transfer. I think one of the things, I think Meta is a great example,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If Meta cannot get it
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
so then I think we have to definitely. I think that's a great point. So, but
Yes.
coming back to the impact, right? Coming back
Yeah.
to the impact. So, what I have seen, or what things inside Tsaaro we have been discussing in this, day in day out. Today, when in our stand-up, we were discussing that 5 years, right? In 5 years, GDPR made, like there was the first law, right? In 2016 it came, right? First law which came, and then because of that law, every other country in the world which was trying to do business with the EU had to
Yeah.
get a law, and which kind of indirectly forced people or forced countries to get a law.
Yeah.
So the impact that we see was, humongous, right? One GDPR law led
It,
to
it
two
I
by
think it
third
changed
population of the world
it
under
changed the
privacy law.
way, yeah, it changed the way business was handling their data, and it forced. So I usually say that, all the other countries have started adapting GDPR and then building upon their data privacy laws. So
Yeah.
that's a huge impact, and it has become a heart of data privacy throughout now in these 5 years.
No, Mona, that's 100%. I'm with you 100%. Right. That especially even if you look at India, right? I think
Yeah.
somebody I was traveling in Europe last year, right? And last 3-4 months back, I think last year, but I had this conversation. Somebody said, why are there so many privacy professionals in India, right? And there was a great question, right? I sat back and thought about it, right? Why? How come we don't have a privacy law and still we have so many privacy laws, right? Because India is an export market, right? Either export in terms of our business or in export in terms of our talent. So all the companies in the world are getting their work done back in India, in their GCCs, right, or in their India office. I think impact for India in terms of jobs has been huge. Right? What's your take, Mona?
Totally. Because in India, almost all the organizations are working with their counterparts in the European Union. And that's where it becomes mandatory for us also to comply with GDPR. And that's where the requirement of data privacy is into the picture. And I think that's a good part because we have already gone through GDPR, we have known it. So when the Indian data privacy law comes, we are already in that position that we can, adapt it very fast.
Yeah. I think a maturity, at least in terms of that I would rather say the first few adopters or the companies who are doing export is huge, right?
Yeah.
Because the regulation is giving fines right, left, and center. So talking a
Yes.
bit about our relationship with AI and GDPR, right? So especially
Yeah.
from my angle, see, I have clients, right, where I have been working day in and day out. One thing that keeps coming, and we are keep doing this a lot, is the idea of AI product, right? So what is happening is every product today has AI, right, or deep learning or something, right? Data analytics
Yeah.
is much faster than before, right? It cannot be compared to 5 years earlier or today. Things are changing, world is changing, new features are leading to more processing of data. So what's your take on this, Mona, right? How do you see GDPR and AI married together, or do you think that it's a divorce? I don't know, just asking you. Yeah, how do you see?
No, as I said, data privacy does not or never restricts you from working or collecting data, right? So, and of course, we cannot stop the growth which we are experiencing in the terms of technology. So, if there is artificial intelligence and it's trying to ease human work, that's okay. Artificial intelligence and GDPR can work hand in hand if proper rules are being followed. So, similarly, if wherever we are collecting the information, GDPR does not regulate the minds of men, but here human decisions are being try to utilized in a way to influence it into artificial intelligence. So we just have to be cautious enough to follow the data privacy principles which are there in place, typically at all the stages when we are collecting the information, when we are storing it, processing it, or deleting it. If every step is being followed with, or I would say fabricated with GDPR or data privacy principles, then I think they can just work hand in hand.
Yeah, perfect. What are these requirements, right? So let's say we are talking about things going hand in hand, right? And we are, kind of agreeing to do processing after, let's say, doing an assessment or thinking about AI, assessing personal data, SPI, whatever is being processed there. But what are these requirements, right? So let's say we are using AI for processing, and somebody has also asked this question, right? Let me just take that quickly, and I'll come back to this. So does an app developer based out of India, see, if the app is targeting anywhere in the world, anyways, by the way, even if you're a developer or a legal professional, privacy has to be, your point number one, point number two, rather. The point number one is develop. So your point number two is definitely privacy, right? Because you have to make sure that the app that you're building is compliant. See, Thailand has a law. Okay, Thailand is not a good example of law. Maybe just started, but Malaysia has a law, right? Indonesia has a law, right? I think privacy is very important,
Singapore.
especially
Yeah.
in all the countries in the world now. But coming back to the point, looking at US, right? So California has a law, all the states have a law, right? So coming back then, right? So app developers need to implement privacy by design and should do a privacy impact assessment. So what are these requirements, right? If you're using AI, processing
Yeah.
personal data, what are the requirements? How do you navigate?
What I have understood, the basic foremost requirement is to understand what is a personal data. Honestly, I've come across clients and organizations where they often confuse personal data with any other confidential data. Confidential data is equally important for an organization, but when we are talking of data privacy, we clearly need to bifurcate them into personal data and sensitive personal data. When we have that clarity amongst our system for whichever purpose we are using that artificial intelligence is definitely working on a set of data. When we have that clarity of how that personal data is coming, where is it going, against all the personal information, there has to be a categorization whether it's a mandate requirement or an optional requirement. How do we understand that? When we have a clear purpose. For it's a very basic example, if I am opening a salary bank account, an individual is required to give his details like his name, number, email address, maybe his PAN card details or his identification card. So there is a purpose attached. So whenever we are collecting data, there has to be a proper purpose to it. We need to minimize on it to ensure that we are only collecting the mandate part and not the optional part. When you have done this basic analysis, then you know that why you are doing profiling and on what you are doing profiling. So these clarities need to be done. When the statement is defined, your purpose is defined, you know the purpose of doing a profiling that you are doing on that data. Then comes the consent. Every data collection has to happen with the consent. If there is no consent or you are not telling consent, now if companies are capturing data of large number of audience, we cannot go to individual people to take their consent. So there are ways we declare privacy policies, privacy notices, where we clearly mention that how we are going to utilize that data. So these nitty-gritties need to be very clearly captured very at the starting of
Very,
the work, so that we are secured with our data privacy principles
we,
and
we
there's
don't get a
nothing.
fine. Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
get a
we
fine,
don't
right?
get it.
Audits
Either
are,
you
are,
do
are
it before or you end up paying fines. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
that's how it
guys,
is.
also I just want to let all of you know that today we're gonna end the session in another 5-10 minutes, right? And we're gonna open the session is by the way open for Q&A already. So any question that you have, what is GDPR, what is AI? Okay, what is AI stuff? What is GDPR? Anything that you have in your mind, feel free to drop them in the chat box. We'll take the question. If the question is technical, as technical a question you have, we would love it as much, right? So our love is directly proportional to the technicality question. Just say. So coming back to the point, I'm sorry, I'm an engineer, so I keep losing that. Right? Proportionality, things. I think very few people here surviving engineering in
I'm with
privacy.
you. I'm with you on that,
Okay, high
Akash.
five, high five. Can we do this? I can.
Yes.
So yeah, thinking about engineering then. So coming back, personal data profiling. So okay, so if let's say there is an AI, right? Chat GPT, right? Let's take a Chat GPT example. So now let's say I start building Chat GPT, right? So what
Yeah.
what is going to happen, Mona? So how do I, what are the things that I should keep in mind if I'm about to build.
The items which I mentioned right now, which are the basic foundations of data privacy, this needs to be very clear. You'll have to identify what data are you going to work upon for the creation of your maybe the bots or the Chat GPT or the artificial intelligence system that you are developing. The data has to go through proper consent and with proper purposes. So, and these needs to be well documented in such a way that there are no objections being raised about any individuals whose data you're working on. So that categorization needs to happen very well at the starting, so that we know or we are sure on the accuracy and we have the control on that data with which we are doing the profiling for them.
Sure, Mona. So I think one thing that is mentioned is we do a PIA.
Do a
So, and
PIA.
while doing the PIA, we try to understand the risk that is there, in terms of what can go wrong. And plus, we are documenting where data is coming from, where
Yeah.
data is going, who will process step one, do purpose limitation, right? You
Yeah.
guys, even if you're in India, we already have consent laws, and every data that
Yeah.
you're taking should be with consent. And now I'm going to move on and I'm going to stop some presentations and I'm going to move on directly to Q&A, and I have a counter statement here, right? I have a counter statement.
Yeah.
So what if like there are even if nobody is targeting, right? Even if
Yeah.
we are pure, right? Did
Yeah.
not want to go
Yeah.
there, but
Yeah.
still, because the type of business we are in, we obviously are going to enable Europeans to buy in. And if
Yeah.
the processing is not systematic and
Yeah.
doesn't have, let's say, 100, 200 large scale processing is not there, it's fine. But if
Yeah.
large scale processing is there, then you're liable
Yeah.
to follow that, right? Because
Yeah.
end of day,
Yeah.
even if you say no, because end of day you want to say, hey, please refer to my portal, right?
Yes.
Then
Yes.
you're asking him to refer to your portal, who is a European again, right? European resident. So,
Yeah.
so I feel like you cannot run away from this. If
From
until and
GDPR.
unless
It
you
totally
have very few users, it's totally fine. We're not
Yeah.
targeting. It's very fine. It's just like my mom. Sometimes she didn't used to beat me up because she said okay, one or two times it's fine, but the third time she used to catch hold of me, right? So just
Yeah.
saying. So
This
guys, by the
this
way,
is
if you're
also a
Indian,
myth about GDPR that people think that it's applied only on larger organizations. So irrespective of the size of the organization, it does apply because of the
yeah.
nature of the work.
And
Yeah.
by the way, guys, if you need a GDPR cheat sheet, it's right in this section, right? It's a cheat sheet. We kind of simplified things. By the way, we are also launching a quick video on our YouTube channel. So if you've not subscribed it, just have to go to YouTube and think about anything in privacy. And and out there, right? If you want to hear something from amazing speakers, you have to find Privacy Cast. It's a click away, right? If you think about it, thinking about some courses you want to do, learn something like cross-border data transfer, like Meta got fine, so you can come back to our academy, look at CDDPOs. We want to teach you 100%. And Mona, thank you for the session. Thank you for amazing session, right? You look great, and
Thank you,
it was
Akash. Thank you for
great.
having me today.
Thank you guys, and have a nice day, right?